Hi. So, lately I've been thinking about what even makes me a creative. What makes me a person who's capable of expressing myself. And it's such a interesting question because you would think that anybody has the capacity to create anything that they'd want to. The reality is that it's really hard and nobody really talks about why. You just see people disappear for a second and they don't come back for months. Some people don't come back for years. It's really hard to explain what is happening behind the scenes, why people aren't, for example, online anymore, why people leave certain creative spaces. And it has been such an experience for me understanding what all that means. If you guys are new here, hi, I'm Davi. I am a creative. I've been fighting between changing literally the little description portion of my YouTube profile, little comment, whatever, from just a girl in my own world. At first, it was just in my own world, then it turned to in my own world of art and fashion, and then, you know, it was like a whirlwind of how can I niche down? What can I do to make my channel more specific and to target a specific kind of audience? But the funny part is, I don't know who I'm trying to talk to most of the time. I don't know who exactly I'm trying to relate to. I just know that I'd like to connect to and reach other creative people, other open minded, other expressive people. And I think this is where it gets hard because if you're the kind of person who isn't just interested in drawing or painting or different craft stuff, making bracelets, jewelry, interested in specifically business, but also, just trying to make fun videos. Like, it's hard to basically create an algorithm that supports your interests, all of your interests, versus just being a content creator who, yeah, is good at one thing, but is also great at another thing as well. And I've been really thinking about what actually makes me a creative. And I choose that question because I don't think it's really what's going to make me the best artist. Who's going to be interested in me? How can I show that I am the best person to go to at the end of the day? And I think 9 times out of 10 it's just I might not be the best at what I do, but I could give you my perspective and I can give you my perception of how to do the things that I do. Right? And I think that's where the magic is. I don't think the magic is who can make the best video, who can outperform other people or, fight an algorithm. I don't think it's about that. I think it's about offering your perception of things, your input. And I think that's what we all have to offer. I don't think it ever had to be, some niching down of things. I mean, it gets to a point where it's confusing. Like, you don't want people to go on your page or anything and be confused about exactly what it is you do. But you want to be able to have a clear message throughout all of your videos. And I think the easiest way of doing that is staying true to how you think, what your values are, and how you are in your most natural state. Me, for instance, I I do a lot of visual artwork, right? I'm a visual artist. I do graphic design. Um, I've even showed parts of myself on my channel doing little things like making music, or just doing commentary stuff, talking about my Pinterest boards and things like that. And it's been so interesting because I think there was a point in my still early YouTube career that I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to do whatever it was that I wanted to do. And I I think what was cool is that I grew to understand, a pattern amidst all those things that I did throughout those videos. And I just came to the conclusion that I'm just a creative. I'm a person who likes to research by actually doing things, doing new things, doing different things, practicing different things that are within the creative bracket, which I think mainly everything is creative if you're creating something. I mean, so yeah, it was always so scary to try and make a different video that was a little different, or if there was a different tone or something. But I noticed that it didn't matter as much because I could sense myself through all of it. It wasn't like I was becoming a different person. It wasn't like I was completely changing how I approach things and what my general opinions were or values or anything like that. It's just that I'm a creative person who has a pretty consistent mindset, and I approach different creative practices in very similar ways. I mean, I won't say that my approach is necessarily the same every time, but my thinking and my perception of what I'm doing is generally consistent in every time I do something different. And I think that's what people need, not really a niche to watch, something to see on a consistent basis, a replication of, one video. I think it's about connecting to that person. And I think this is like what branding tries to get into, is that, people say that people aren't necessarily buying the product, they're buying the idea behind the product, the person, most times behind the product. And honestly, you could make the argument that the product is what makes this identity, but I think the most genuine, and I think also obviously what people like the most is the fact that the person can make the product. Um, so yeah, I've been trying to trust that more, and that had got me into thinking about the kind of creative I want to be, um, as well as, before getting into that, the kind of creative I have been. And going back to that behind the scenes kind of thing, I've been struggling. I'm not even gonna lie to you. And it's usually a combination of early life crisis, imposter syndrome, um, failure of not doing enough, or just failure, and really just, I think another thing that people don't really talk about is just having to grieve certain ideas and, kind of visualizations, if you will. There's a better word for that. But different kinds of like approaches and expectations you had for creating things. I think any creative can understand when they start making something, they can have an expectation of how they want it to look in the end. But I've even grown to learn in my artwork that it's not really about the end product. It's about the process and what the process means to you. And that's where we become more brave when it comes to publishing our videos and content, is understanding that the product is supposed to be a result of what we went through to get to finishing and finalizing the product, quote unquote. And it's scary because you don't know what the product is going to be, but also you're afraid of how the product is going to demonstrate just how well you're able to actually be either a writer or an artist or anything. It demonstrates how how skillful you are sometimes. And it can be scary because, you think to yourself, well, I'm bad at this. How am I going to sit here and tell other people how to do something? How am I going to be able to um, gain trust from my audience? How am I supposed to how am I supposed to even say that I deserve earning on a platform that is supposedly investing in me? Like, it's kind of crazy to put yourself out there and be like, yeah, I should get money for doing this. Like, I think still the idea of sitting at home and like making videos and getting money through passive income is actually nuts. But I think where we're supposed to, put our foot down, especially as creatives, is I am good at what I do because I do it on a consistent basis and I'm passionate about it and I'm loyal. And I have a set of knowledge that isn't readily available to everyone. And me offering my perception and my experience is value. That is value at the end of the day. It is a set of knowledge and an approach, whatever you want to call it, that is valuable and it's worth it. Um, so I guess, yeah, kind of in a roundabout way, going back to how I see myself as a creative, I think niching down is like a really kind of a difficult approach when it comes to somebody who's so multifaceted. And I think that thinking about yourself more so in a way, a perception, an idea, or I guess a brand, if you want to say, I think is a lot better because I don't think it's exactly the niche that makes people so successful. I think it really is you offering your insights and being straightforward about it and being present and communicating with your audience and connecting to your audience in that way. I think I've seen so many different creators use this approach where they're doing different things, but it's still the same voice. It's still the same person. And I've noticed myself that I really enjoy videos or vlogs and things like that where I hear that person's voice through every clip. Like, I am constantly hearing what they think or how they feel or, their interpretation of what they're experiencing. And I've always wondered what exactly kind of videos I was so captivated by. And it's exactly those kinds of videos. It's those videos where um, it's like they're talking to me. It's like a friend is telling me about something that they're experiencing. And I just enjoy it a lot more than just scenic things. I mean, anybody can go to Paris, right? Anybody could go to the Bahamas or, and show a video clip of them walking around and eating food and swimming. Like, this isn't new to us. I mean, the only reason why it's so interesting is because it's such a luxury. And argumentatively, it's kind of a representation of privilege and it's something that not everyone is able to attain. But that goes into the message of it all, is that, do I want to be the kind of creator that does that? Do I want views and recognition for allowing people to taste luxury and privilege? Like, I don't want to do that. I want to connect to them on a deeper level that is always going to resonate with them, even when they do experience going to Mexico or the Dominican Republic, and they don't need to watch my videos anymore because they already know what it looks like and they have pictures in their camera roll. Like, I think, not to say that those videos are terrible, but I think that's the easier route to go. It's, so I want something deeper than that. I want, that childhood memory. I want that nostalgia. I want, the sensual aspect of connecting and storytelling and visualization and imagination. And I want to access those things deeper, because I feel like we're losing that today as creatives. We're losing the ability to conjure that state of being where we are capable of creating that true, genuine feeling and imagination, basically. Because it is a superpower. I mean, you look at the world we are in today and you realize that it looks the way that it does because of the strongest willing people who had a vision and enacted it. It's just like, it's kind of crazy to think about how the systems and things that are put in place and are our reality is because people envisioned it to be. And we lose that when we try to replicate all the time. We lose the capacity to imagine, and we lose that relationship with our imagination. And reality becomes something else that somebody else created for us. And we become easily impressed, I think. And it's amazing because, you know, I remember being little and watching Harriet the Spy or Judy Moody or even Coraline, and being in awe, truly in awe at the fact that these were worlds created by like, I would say a single person, but I think the reality is that people usually have help. But like, people have created this reality. I was watching Penelope the other day, and I was watching somebody else watch it, and I realized that the world was fictional. It was just based on different parts of the world, and it just had different characteristics from different parts of the world, just like smushed into one. I think there's been many films like that that have been created because like a person they took pieces of different parts of the world or reality, and they created something of their own. And those are my favorite films. Those are my favorite forms of media, or I guess artifacts too. It's just like those that were created, those that have a world. Like, you think of Star Wars and all of these amazing things, or like even in a sense Percy Jackson, if you guys are into that, or like Game of Thrones. Like, these are things created from a person's mind. Like, that's how powerful these things are. Not only do they influence the person that has them, they influence our immediate realities, the other people's realities. And it's like, where has that gone? Not that it's like not here anymore, but it's just like, you're not seeing it happen. And I think that's why everything kind of is underwhelming. I think we blamed technology and the advancement of technology and everything like that at one point. But I think we're kind of missing the point of reeling back from like futuristic things, or okay, new setting unlocked. Just had to move for a second. But yeah, I don't think it was ever about the computers or going up against technology. I think it was about finding our autonomy again. And I think a lot of creators and people who have a lot of commentary on things and who like to share their opinion, I think that they get really excited and amped because obviously it attracts viewership, but it attracts viewers. But at the same time, I think we become so looped in this like hyper fixated kind of short term gratification sort of loop, to the point that we overdo it sometimes. It's either we have too much protein or too less protein, or too many carbs, cutting carbs, and then it's TV than no TV, or the phone has too much information on it and I'm too sucked in. Now I need a dumb phone and I need to free myself. And it's just like, dude, for one, I mean, this is part of our experience as human beings on this earth. There's so much content to consume outside of just basic, cyberspace. I mean, it's pretty insane that we've created another space, a technological space in which we can experience things. And then there's our tangible physical reality where our bodies were biologically composed to interact with, you know, the earth, the world around us. And I think to blame something and to dismiss all responsibility that you have for your learning, for your awareness, for your connections, your relationships, is very extreme, and it just demonstrates that you don't have the capacity to be in charge of your own conception. And it's crazy to me. I mean, yeah, but I am not going to go into that. I think that's for another video. But back to being a creative, I think creative people are supposedly supposed to have a different approach to the world. Um, and you know what? I'd even argue, I think creative people, baseline, are people who freely demonstrate their interpretations of the world and the things that they experience. And what makes you a creative person is your eye for storytelling and interpreting, and it comes in different forms, it comes in different medias, and it comes in different ways. Um, and I think of that when I think of, all the movies that I grew up watching. And I think about how it's so interesting that there are different generations that were exposed to different kinds of media, entertainment, knowledge, education. And I think it's so funny because for me, I think the most educational form of media has been movies. And I feel like I can go into this deeper in another video, but the timing of a film, what's said, what isn't said in terms of dialogue, where the camera goes, when a character expresses a certain emotion. I think there's a lot of information there. It tells us, one, how to read people and how to understand other people, or how to better understand ourselves and how we react to things and situations. And um, I think films have a large or a very strong capacity to immerse us without having for us to make a large sacrifice, besides maybe $20 to go to the AMC. It's just like, these things teach us how to world build. They teach us how to conceptualize. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts that was ever given to man. Anything that allows us to immerse ourselves and to see from a different perspective, and exposes us to different things. Um, it's I love the fact that I grew up um, around different kinds of media. I grew up with a flip phone first, and then I was like maybe high school when I got like an iPhone, and I was playing with Barbies at a young age. I didn't get to go on demand, if you guys remember that, and watch cartoons. And the only time I ever watched cartoons is when I went over a family member's house and stayed up late to Kim Possible and, you know, That's So Raven, stuff like that. And at the time, some of those things I didn't quite understand. I think That's So Raven was pretty complex for like an 8-year-old, obviously, because it's more so targeted to teens and things. But some of the messages and the things discussed were, I think, a lot stronger. They held a lot stronger of weight. Even some cartoons, obviously, like Kim Possible, it was just so personalized, based on how the creator of, that thing perceived things to be. And yeah, it's still crazy to see. I mean, just the evolution of Disney Channel. Like, I think it's insane just where it's gone. I mean, I haven't watched Disney Channel in ever, but when I like glanced at it a couple times, I was just like, dude, I don't even know what I'm watching right now. Like, this is not the Disney I knew. But, and, of course, it's supposed to be like that to a certain extent. But at the same time, you really get a taste of like what the newer generations are looking at. And we can get into generations like forever, but I remember tons of color. There's this one program, I guess you can call it. It wasn't necessarily a show, but I have the whole like CD saved on my phone, like nearly the whole CD. But it was just like from the moment I remember the very beginning in terms of memory and images and watching something, I remember the show. I just remember a ton of colors. And if you guys know that, like, that early 2000s, late 90s kind of grainy, kind of VHS feel that is in media. And, I just remember kids moving around, doing crazy things. Like, there are segments where the people in the video are like making letters and shapes with their bodies, and the way the cartoons were interesting. And it was insane to me, like, as like a toddler, near like baby seeing all that happened, and like the music and the lyricisms and hearing the songs today. It's crazy how, like, as an adult, I can resonate with the music and the imagery from then. And I was able to as well as a young child. And I think of things like Ice Age or like Madagascar, and how those, although directly like referencing, children, or like trying to have a very young audience, adults can resonate with those movies as well because of some of the discussions that happen in them. That was a part of world building. Madagascar was its own world. Ice Age was its own world. And what else? I guess, especially things like SpongeBob and stuff like that. Like, that was crazy world building. I mean, so much lore. um, Now, when I think of me as a creator, I think of Emily, I think of Penelope, I think of Coraline, I think of Box Trolls, I think of, I don't know what's another one. I think of Barbie, I think of Bratz. There were so many things that shaped my experience, like as a kid and as an adult. And, honestly, I forgot about them. I forgot about a good amount of those things. Um, just becoming an adult and having to think of other things aside from the things I liked in my childhood. But I think there comes a point in adulthood where you have to revisit those things and remember those parts of yourself, because I think that that's where a lot of our lore is, right? That's a lot of where our identities stem from, and that's a lot of where we develop the capability to create us, like ourselves. And sometimes we even have, as adults, created something that inadvertently doesn't resonate with us because we stopped looking back on the things that we took pride in and the things that we valued. So, yeah, I've been just thinking about all of that a lot, and I think it's time for us to go back to that and to remember when we were loyal to a series, and or maybe that one movie. I guess if you guys have anything like that that meant a lot to you, or you're kind of feeling nostalgic, I'd be happy to see what you guys miss, things you miss seeing, different visuals, maybe, smells even, I guess. I don't know. But yeah. Oh, last note. I was listening to the creation of Shrek, and what was that other movie that they were making? I forgot. And the irony is that I forgot that movie's name when that movie was supposed to be like the biggest thing out there at the time. And Shrek was actually supposed to bomb. Like it was supposed to be like this big failure, but it turned out to be like insanely successful. Yeah, I just think about that and how the people who would like, I guess, supposedly mess up on that one project for that movie that was supposed to like blow up or whatever, how they were sent to work on Shrek, and Shrek turned out to be like one of the best films ever. And it's just like people were literally just messing around and having a good time on Shrek, and it like it was a big success. It was a bunch of creative um and different individuals who were able to create something insanely impressive, yeah, but also insanely creative, insanely diverse, and wild and crazy and experimental, and it worked, and it did wonders. I mean, even kids today love that movie. Like, yeah, so I'll leave you guys with Shrek. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. And I'll see you guys in the next video.